Council, and it is my pleasure to welcome you here today. We appreciate your interest and your willingness to be involved, and I am certainly hopeful that by the end of the day today, you will be committed to even more involvement. Housing is an issue that impacts us all, and if you haven't been impacted directly by it, you probably have friends and neighbors or extended family that have been, and of course our local employers and employees are impacted by it. Having housing that is accessible to our residents is key to a healthy community. So it doesn't affect just our individuals, but I think it also affects our communities. We want the people that work in our communities to also be able to live in our communities and to actually be a part of those communities, supporting neighbors and being volunteers in the community and being part of programs that are happening in the community. We want a diversity of age groups and incomes. Also, I think part of the charm and the traditional building of every part of our county is that we have had a mix of small and large homes, often sitting side by side. And I love that. I just think that's a really neat part of our community. But we are a tourist area and conditions have started to change, and we do have a challenge now with a situation in which many of our citizens are priced out of our housing market. Even our small homes are out of reach of many of those who want to live and work here, and our rental options are limited. So this is our challenge, and working together throughout our county, I believe that with a multiplicity of approaches that we can tackle this issue. We already have some successes, and many people are stepping up and making good things happen. We have a great start, and I know that we can thoughtfully and strategically work through our housing issues. So it's great to see all of you here today, and I want to get us started by first having our elected officials stand and recognize them. So, yes, we have a number. And thank you for caring about housing. And I would also like to have members of our HPAC stand. So, this is a countywide group that originally started to get a study and an analysis of our housing needs done. And out of that, of course, came some data that we can really rely on, and also a list of priorities. And so that HPAC has been continuing and working on those priorities. We have some guests, I think, too, from out of the county here today. Autumn Dever, and I'm not sure if she's arrived yet, from the UAA COG, and a group from Leadville. So thank you for joining us today. And I would also like to give a special thanks to Mount Princeton for giving us this wonderful facility to use today for our meeting. And so to actually get us going here, I would like to introduce Brandy Ritter, the administrator for the town of Lucas.
So I just want to say welcome to everybody, and Mount Princeton, I'd like to thank you as well for hosting us here today, this morning. It's beautiful. I know it was pretty frigid this morning, but it's still always beautiful in Chaffee County, especially in Mount Princeton. As it was mentioned, a lot of really great work has been done to support affordable housing in Chaffee County. We're moving a lot of things forward. I know the HPAC group, as well as community partners and the local governments, we've all been very involved in trying to move initiatives forward. But, just to kind of step back, why are we here today? It is for affordable housing. It's been a conversation that has been ongoing for many years, predates me, and we're at a point now where we're kind of at a critical juncture in Chaffee County in terms of affordable housing. It's impacting our communities, it's impacting economic development, it's impacting the quality of life for the residents in Chaffee County. Affordable housing, it's a broad topic. It includes many elements. It includes workforce housing, it includes senior housing, assisted living, low-income housing. So we're talking about all forms of affordable housing today. We're also talking about the impact on affordable housing in our communities, impacting the quality of life. We want to keep our folks here. We don't want them to have to commute. It's part of the quality of life. People move here to be in Chaffee County. We'd like them to stay in Chaffee County. We're here to discuss what we can do in our communities to facilitate affordable housing. We'll hear a lot of ideas. We'll be sharing best practices, especially from some of the guests that we have here today. We'll also talk about what's already been done in Chaffee County. I know that in Buena Vista, we've done some things, Poncha Springs, as well as the city of Salida, as well as Chaffee County. And also I want to recognize Habitat for Humanity, who's been working on affordable housing for a long, long time in Chaffee County. So we're going to be talking about what's already happening. We need to celebrate our successes because this is a very, very hard policy problem to solve. So it's ongoing, we can make dents in it, but we are on the right track. We do have some guests here, like I said, from Eagle, our neighboring communities, to talk about best practices. The good news is that we're not the first community that's talked about this. We're not the only folks that struggle with this. This is a statewide issue, and it's different on the Front Range versus the mountain communities, and we have a lot of really good examples to learn by. So we'll be leaning quite a bit on our partners and neighbors to help us with this issue. I know we talked a little bit about the Chaffee County Housing Needs Assessment. That is a great document. If you haven't read it, I encourage you to read it. It lays out a really good framework for what Chaffee County can do to begin to solve our problems of affordable housing in our communities. That is the blueprint, and I definitely want to thank the jurisdictions as well as HPAC for putting a lot of hours and putting funding into updating that assessment. We have really good data, and it makes a lot of really great recommendations on how to implement affordable housing. So today I encourage you to, as we're moving through the panels this morning and going into our breakout sessions this afternoon, I encourage you to move affordable housing initiatives forward in Chaffee County. It's critical and it's part of the quality of life of Chaffee County. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's sessions. I'm particularly excited about it, and definitely want to move into action and see some of these great ideas become reality for our community. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and introduce Dan Cooper, the president of Habitat for Humanity. If you'd like to introduce. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. I just got promoted. I'm actually a board member of Habitat. That's because my wife said, either you get on the board of Habitat along with me, or else we will never make 50 years. I joined the board, and we're 2 weeks away from 50 years, so I think we've got it. Actually, Dale Shoemaker is the president of the board of Habitat, and I will let him introduce himself. But I also want everybody to introduce one another for 2 reasons. Number one, some of us don't know one another. And number two, some of us are so old that we probably met you yesterday and we have forgotten your name. So, Randy, why don't we start with your table? We know you. Mark, why don't you just stand up, introduce yourselves, why you're interested in this session today, and then we'll just work our way through the tables.
Mark Doring, principal planner for the town of Buena Vista, interested in getting housing in BD.
Stacey Amber, I work with Human Services and interested in affordable housing for both personal and professional reasons.
Andrew Costa, I'm Director of Chaffee County Public Health, and I'm interested in this area because John Rowan, I'm the planning manager for Chaffee County. I'd very much like to see the folks that want to move here have a place to live.
Christy Barton, I recently started with Chaffee County Planning, and I'm here to learn.
I'm Bob Christensen, the county administrator of Chaffee County. Had a history of working with the county related to housing challenges and working with HVAC. And acknowledging DOLA for helping us with the most recent assessment. They contributed half the funds for that to happen.
Jan Wondrop, I'm not male. I was lucky enough to move here a couple years ago, and I live right up there. And I think that attainable housing is a basic human right, so I'm really glad that we're working on it, and I'm proud of it.
I'm Christy Culp. I'm the regional manager with the Colorado Department of Local Affairs. I live in Chaffee County. We did help fund the project, affordable housing is obviously a big community development issue for our division, and so glad that we were able to help and see the fruits of the labor somehow.
Jake Haas, Chaffee County Commissioner, charter member of Salida Housing Development Corporation. We formed Salida Housing Development Corporation in 1995. We opened the doors of Riverbend Apartment in June of 1997, and it has been full. We have a occupancy rate of something like 97%, and have tried to get a couple other projects going. We haven't been able to do that, so just always wanting to learn and to have our workforce be able to have a good place to call home. That's the major objective of any person that's working and living in the county, is they want to be able to go home and appreciate the home that they're living in.
Chaffee has a party, real estate broker, and very interested in this very important topic here in our area.
My name is Joel Betson. I'm the mayor in Buena Vista. We've got a couple housing projects going on. One affordable housing that is in the works, and one that is in the grapevine. And we also have a significant code rewrite that's happening that hopefully will bring more things together.
My name is Carrie Warner, and I'm from Breckenridge. My husband is one of the presenters. But I also have a little chip idea of, and I call it attainable housing rather than affordable housing, about using the current stock of inventory that you have here, possibly that's in the rental program, and trying to incentivize those landlords into renting to workforce.
Eileen Rogers. I started in housing in 1986 in Colorado Springs. I was a part of the group that built the first Habitat duplex. And that was the first Habitat house in Colorado Springs. I think that was right about 1998. When I retired in 2001, we moved here to Chaffee County, and I haven't stopped wanting to be a part of housing because I know there's a desperate shortage.
Everyone, it's Sarah Blanchard. I'm the Housing Development Specialist with the State Division of Housing. So we can funds available for new construction and applications we have in projects. And we're very aware of the need for housing, affordable housing here in the county, and we'd love to see more happening.
Catherine Bannerman, I'm with the Salida Chamber of Commerce and interested in learning about what plans are working in.
I'm Kimberly Parker. I'm starting with the Alliance Against Domestic Abuse later this month, and I've been working with HVAC on the First 50 group, which you'll hear more about later, but very interested in what's happening in the county for those who are at 50% AMI and below.
Dale Shoemaker, Chaffee County Habitat for Humanity, President of the Board. I also lead the construction effort, so I'm really interested in taking action, taking some of the plans that come out of this group, turning them into actual construction.
My name is Doug Fillet. I serve on the Chief Housing Trust.
and I am also on the Planning Commission. My real interest, besides just getting it going, beyond just the housing, is really how we build it. I'm really an advocate of making the housing that we do get going energy efficient and safe.
I'm Mandy Trello, Coastal Vista Health. And I've been working with at-risk families in this community for about 18 years. And over that time, people on low income or limited income don't have anywhere to live anymore. They become homeless, they camp, they live in cars. So I'm here to learn how we can support those low income families that do that.
I'm Sherry Johnson Horsley. Like Mandy, I've worked in the community a long time with nonprofits with families who are at risk and suffering for places to live. So I too am, I work with a lot of early childhood center and our families are in poverty a lot of times. So of course I'm interested in affordable housing.
I'm Andrea Schultz Ward, the director of the Alliance Against Domestic Abuse. I'm also part of the First 50 subcommittee for the HPAC group, and I'm interested in looking at innovative solutions for the short term as well as planning for long term.
Hi, my name is Ken Matthews. I'm on the board for the Chaffee Housing Trust. I'm a recent transplant from the Front Range, and I see that the quality of our communities is really threatened by the lack of affordable housing, and I want to make a difference in whatever way I can.
Good morning, Morgan Billington. I'm on the board of Chaffee Housing Trust as well. I'm also a local lender, and I see firsthand the struggle that families go through trying to become homeowners, and I'm here to learn and see how we can make things better.
I'm Ashley Mitchell. I'm also on the board of Chaffee Housing Trust. I'm on the board of care and part of the workforce, so I'm a board statement.
Well, I'm Tom McCorney of Natural Habitats. This is what I design build firm and work with the city for affordable housing component when we do developments. And I'm interested in the public-private cooperation or how that's going to go. And we have some ideas. Just hear what's going on. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amy Ward, and I'm the Director of Academics for the Salida School District. And I'm also a recent transplant here and someone who's living in a multi-family housing situation because we couldn't find a place to live. But more than that, it is a huge limiting factor for all of our staff at the Salida School District. And it's an important topic to recruit and to retain quality staff, not only our teachers, but our administrators and our non-certified staff as well. So it's a very important topic for us.
My name is Paige Judd. We moved here in 2001, and in that time I've been an employer. I worked in the school district for 5 years, and now I work full time with my husband building houses in Salida. And I would like to see Salida remain a place where we have diversity of age. One thing I saw at the school district, and I go to the families, young families who we need to keep in our community to maintain a community. So I feel that I can find a way to keep families in our town.
I'm Joseph Kimberly, Mayor Salida, and we've all talked about housing for a number of years. I guess I'm very concerned about the amount that are going to second rental or vacation rentals, also second homes that are appropriated by our houses, sight unseen. So I'm concerned about how we implement deed restrictions, how we have a balance with all that, how we have a good mechanism that's going to be good for Salida, hopefully be good for the county, that is consistent, and we can go forward and make sure we have that mechanism. So, let the developers know what's going to be expected, and there's no questions, and everyone's being treated, consistently.
Right, we know each other.
Hi, I'm Lori Henning. I'm on the Planning Commission for the City of Salida, a brand new member. So I'm here to learn, and I think this is a big component of the whole housing story and all the issues that exist in the county.
I'm Francie Gomer, and I'm also a planning commissioner in the city of Salida. Was appointed at the same time Dory was, and we're here to learn and participate. I think it's really important to the character of our communities that we maintain, as Paige said, all levels of income and interest and age, and that we use the assets that we have available to us to do that as a city and as a county.
My name is Becky Insazo, and I work for Integrated Healthcare Partners. We are responsible for the southern 19 counties in the state for administering the regional accountable care collaborative. And there's a saying among us that housing is health care. There's a lot of attention being paid right now at the state level as we're trying to figure out how to provide good health care to everybody, particularly low-income families. How do we do that when certain social determinants of care are not being taken care of? So we've got to get folks stable and in a good living situation before we can take care of chronic physical and mental health conditions. So that's my interest.
I'm Keith Baker. I'm a Chaffee County Commissioner-elect, former Buena Vista Town trustee, and I've been working on this problem at a policy level with Joel and Wendell and Reed and a few others here for a number of years now, long enough to realize how broad the implications are for our community in terms of employment and quality of life and the kind of people we're going to attract to the county, long enough to realize how complex it is and that there aren't any real simple answers to it, from financing and planning and zoning and coding, land acquisition and all those sorts of things, but I'm still optimistic and idealistic enough to think that we can realize what a problem it is and we can all come together and work on figuring it out and coming up with some workable solutions.
Greg Felt, also Chaffee County Commissioner-elect. Having just come through 10 months on the campaign trail where nearly every issue that was discussed seemed to tie back to growth. And certainly this is one of them. Affordable housing is a big one. And so really at this point in my new career, it's like drinking out of a fire hose. Just so much coming at you, but this is really one of the big ones, one of the key elements of the entire discussion that came out of that campaign and race. And so I'm really delighted to be here and to be listening and learning and getting up to speed on some of the ideas, and look forward to working with many of you on this problem in the future.
Good morning, my name is Al Blum. I'm with Urban Incorporated. We developed a housing project in Buena Vista many years ago called Sunrise Manor, which provided housing for seniors for many years. We're currently working on a 48-unit project in Buena Vista for affordable housing, and we're definitely committed to provide the type of housing that's needed out here.
I'm Bert Kaiser with Collegiate Peaks Bank. As a banker, but also as a citizen, I share the same concerns as everybody in the room, so
I'm Charlie Forster, CEO of Collegiate Peaks Bank, and when Dan mentioned early on that we needed to introduce ourselves because we couldn't remember names, my challenge is when I can't remember my name. And I think looking around, I might be about the oldest long-term resident of Salida in the room here. I've been here over 30 years, and over that 30 years, the change has been just incredibly strong and very positive. So I look back to 1985 when the mine first closed and we lost 2,000 jobs, and you could roll a bowling ball down Main Street in Buena Vista or Salida and not hit anything, and 40% of the real estate, commercial real estate, was vacant. And what I say initially, I guess, is when you're successful, you end up with challenges just like you end up with different challenges if you're not successful. Well, I think we today should sit back and just as we go about through the year and celebrate the success of what's happened in this valley, and then know that the challenges that we have are just kind of an end result of that success. And handle this affordable housing workforce challenge and come up with something that will be beneficial here and will work out. I think that is certainly the case. A great challenge. I'm on the Economic Development Board as one of the founding members, and our job is to try to go out and attract companies and create jobs. Well, the limitation on affordable housing, workforce housing, really limits the ability to do that. I spent many years involved with the hospital. Today, the hospital has a challenge in hiring people because there's no place for them to live. And these are really good jobs at the hospital. There's no place for them to live. That absolutely is a limiting force in the continuing growth of that hospital. So this is a great group, and I think a lot will come out of today, and I really appreciate being here. Side note, Al Urban Inc., the project in Buena Vista. I've known the company, and I've known Al and his other partners for over 30 years. It's important when you're working and focusing on affordable housing that that the developer, whoever's working the project, is a really, really quality developer. And Urban Inc. and the guys go back over 30 years. Al, how many affordable housing doors has Urban Inc. Created in the last? I heard a number.
I believe it's around 1,700, 1,800.
Yeah.
Throughout the city.
Yeah, these guys know what they're doing. So to have them part of this valley and interested in what we're doing is just really very, very beneficial. So I hope to enjoy the day and be interesting with the conversation down. Sorry about that taking so long.
Usually we just ate into our break. I will too. So.
I'll make up for the lost time there, Charlie. My name is Jack Saunders. I'm from Leadville. I'm a home builder up in Leadville for 36 years now. And my market is primarily second home owners. And I'm frustrated that the teachers that teach my kids and the hospital employees that care for our families, I can't build my house. I just don't know how, so maybe I need to turn to Al and others in this room to help. I'm also part of the Climax cohort, which is part of their community planning efforts on a four-county basis. And so we've been tasked to explore the housing issue in the four counties. And my thanks to Chaffee County and the EDC down here for organizing this.
Good morning, I'm Lawton Andy. And my main reason for being here is that when I moved here in '99, I chose a town that's a real town with a diversity of socioeconomic and layers of community, and I want to keep living in that kind of town. Since then, I've gotten involved with real estate, with the vacation lodging business. I'm involved with development by my relationship with my husband, and to see the trajectory of all of this and how it impacts how we live here in the county. I'm on the HPAC committee, and I'm trying to make an impact.
My name is Reed McCullough. I'm the Executive Director of Chaffee Housing Trust and proud member of the HPAC. I've been in the county for over 20 years, and I've watched this problem slowly grow and grow. And the community land trust model is something that I was made aware of, and my efforts are to try and bring that to Chaffee County, the Chaffee Housing Trust.
Hi, I'm Amy Tate. I'm a realtor at Centennial Real Estate in Lake County, and I'm also part of the housing, the cohort that's been tasked to look at housing issues on a regional basis for county region.
I'm Peggy Forney, and I'm from Leadville, and I'm also involved with the Climax Community Development Partnership cohort. About 12 years ago, I built some affordable housing, infill housing in the historic district of Leadville, and I did a very small residential subdivision, so I was recruited to kind of be involved in affordable housing. And just recently, I got the short straw, and now I'm the chair of the Leadville Historic Preservation Commission to try to keep the character of the residents within this historic district of Leadville something that's compatible and contributes.
I'm Julie Babcock, and I live in Minturn. And I'm on the co-board as well. But I'm concerned because I want my children to be able to move back to this area. And I think that's the biggest concern for me, is that the children who grow up here will find a place to live that they can afford.
Okay, thank you. We had 3 folks come in at the end.
I'm Sarah Dawes. I'm the city administrator for the city of Leadville, and I'm here to learn and to bring information back to Leadville.
My name is Sarah Mudge. I'm one of the new commissioners elected in Lake County, and I've been on the city planning and zoning commission for a few years now, and part of the co-board as well, and some other efforts with the Housing Coalition to try to figure out what we need to do to make this year revenue base in Lake County to move on with this problem. I have 2 small children, so again, I feel that coming too. I'd like to see less of turnover in our school district and more folks staying in our community to create that fabric of the community. And I like to be creative and cunning and confident, and also poised to refine all these decisions that we're all going to be making.
I'm Shoshana Beck. I work at Lake County Build Generation in Leadville. I facilitate the housing work group that's working on housing in Lake County. I also sit on city council. And I guess to avoid any redundancy, I probably am here for a lot of the same reasons that everyone else is.
Thank you. Come up here and get into our next segment. Okay. But just go ahead. Thank you for the introductions. One of my responsibilities this morning is time management. And for any clock watchers, I can assure you that this impromptu self-introduction will not impact our ability to get things done. Some of you who know me say, yeah, that's probably right. But I think one of our themes today, or objectives, should be action, not just talk. And I have to say that Brandy, whom you met earlier, is a perfect example of town administration making things happen. As we have, and Joel mentioned it as well, 3 significant projects underway in the northern part of Chaffee County. Projects that cover the continuum, if you will, of Chaffee County AMI, providing housing options for those ranging from 30% of the county AMI up to 125%. All 3 sectors, private, public, and not-for-profit, and both rental and purchase options. And once realized, these options could provide affordable housing for over 250 families across the spectrum. And I'm pleased to have partnered with Brandy and her team on 2 of these 3. Now, the last Chaffee County Summit, Housing Summit, was held in October of 2013. It was hosted by Chaffee County Habitat for Humanity before I got involved. And while results from our last summit may not be ostensibly measurable, it did provide a context or platform for relationships, dialogue, and conversations that have led us to where we are today. One of my former CEOs, in talking about planning versus results, and I mean, it was just constant. I heard this for 23 years. At some point, planning must degenerate into results. And I think that's where we are. And that should be the measure of success of this conference. How many units will be built in 2017? How many in 2018? Perhaps the Economic Development Corporation, Wendell and Corey, maybe this is something that you all can track and publish, because we have got to have the results. Everybody's willing to talk about it, but we need to have the results. Let me step back just a moment and for a few thank yous. Sid and Aaron Sheeran, who own Chalk Cliff Chalet and Antero Hot Springs Cabin, just up the road, providing housing for our speakers. And of course, Mount Princeton, as people have mentioned, for this facility. and particularly to our host sponsor, Freeport, McMoran, and Climax Mine, who are underwriting the cost of this conference, and have been also terrific supporters of Habitat for Humanity. All right, any representatives from Climax Mine here today? We thought there might be. But I think any chance you have in your meetings, you should publicly thank them for their support. So here we are. You all have met one another, and think about the potential for results. As a Habitat board member, I'm excited about the greater impact we could have on affordable housing here in Chaffee County. Habitat International has a model that works throughout the world. Families partner with Habitat for Humanity in the U.S. and around the world to build better lives for themselves and their children. And all it takes is resources, land, donations, and significant volunteer hours. Over the next 3 months, Habitat will be unveiling an aggressive plan to ramp up our productivity and will be successful only if it is supported by the community. Success is based on the response. The model for success is in place and well tested. And if you all, anybody here wants to be part of that, please just let me know. I'll be here through the day, but also watch for announcements over the coming 3 months. It will take the entire community, whether it's Habitat for Humanity or other housing options, and why not help one another in this cause as we provide a handout rather than a handout. Habitat, Dale mentioned it, is about results and has been since it started in Chaffee County in 2001. 19 local families are now in quality affordable housing as a result of Habitat. And this conference should be about producing measurable results for affordable housing over the coming years. That is my challenge to you all in this room. Let me put it in the context of the current political environment, or recent past political environment. We are stronger together and can make Chaffee County great again by creating housing that's affordable for all of our citizens. So, let's begin the program. Our first speaker is John Warner. John served on the Breckenridge Town Council from 1998 until 2002, then as a two-term mayor from 2006 to 2016. Joel, I don't know if you all have an alumni association or not, but he significantly advanced efforts to create affordable housing, including launching projects and participating in the formation of a county housing authority. His humble demeanor, as I am told, as a dentist, served him well in navigating the contentious issues in public service. John tells an informative story of his experience negotiating the growth spurt of a mountain town trying to meet the needs of residents and workers alike. Sounds familiar. John?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I have to tell you, this is a beautiful facility. My only suggestion would be an entrance sign on that building. That's what I know. I've always wanted to come up this road. I've never come up this road. I've lived in Breckenridge for 36 years. I used to kayak on the Arkansas River. I've never been up this valley. It's spectacular. So thank you for having me here. Thanks to the Mountains and Hot Springs folks for letting us utilize this beautiful facility. As I said, I've been living in Breckenridge for 36 years. I moved there from Denver. I moved to Southeast Denver. Met my wife in our senior year in high school. We've been married for 44 years. And we moved to Breckenridge in 1980. I have two wonderful daughters who are grown now. And now we have a 19-month-old grandson. So we're having fun with that as well. I still practice dentistry 4 days a week. And I'm totally out of politics. This seems to be my avocation, talking about what Summit County, Breckenridge, Colorado, has done over the last 20 years. And that's my story. It's about 20 years long. I'm totally IT challenged. I have Kimberly or my wife in the house. Can you hear me okay when I'm speaking in the mic? little closer? Is that better? So anyhow, this has been a 20-year process for Breckenridge and Summit County. It started really in 1996 with something we called land banking, and the town actually bought a piece of property with some excess money in the general fund, and that then morphed into what was called Pinewood Housing, which is a apartment complex, rental complex, about 85 units, 90 units. It rents at about a 98% occupancy rate. It's been fabulously successful. It's rent controlled. We make the rents affordable for all levels of AMI. There's a couple of, no, there's 3 or 4 ADA accessible units as well that some people with wheelchairs are able to get into. That was kind of the beginning of our thinking about affordable housing, attainable housing, workforce housing. We call it all those things. Are we up yet? There we are. Let's go to the next one. So this is a talk I gave in Glenwood Springs back in September. And that's when Reed so graciously invited me to come over here and chat with you guys. There is a connection between policy changes, and I know you guys are going through some code changes perhaps in Buena Vista, Salida. It's all about some policy changes, taking time, and then you ultimately do get results. And as I said, it's taken us 20 years. This to me is paradise. Chaffee County's paradise, Summit County's paradise, Pitkin County, Eagle County. We live in a fabulous place. It's very attractive to wealthy people, very attractive to people that are in pursuit of a great lifestyle, maybe not so wealthy. We're highly impacted by lots and lots of people. At the time that I've been in Breckenridge, we've seen our skier counts go from about 400,000 or 500,000 a year to 1.6, 1.7 million a year. And that's just skiers, and all of a sudden summer is starting to approach the busyness of winter. Telluride, it's already happened. It's busier in Telluride in the summer than it is in the winter. You guys, I don't know what your balance is, but I gotta believe you have a huge summer impact with your boating, kayaking, hiking, climbing, but you've got Monarch Mountain, you've got tons of mountain biking, so I've got to believe you have a lot of things that really balance out your tourist economy. Next slide. So this is Pinewood 1. This is what we built in 1996. This was a public-private partnership with a group called Quorum Development out of Denver, and the town put the land under it. Quorum built the project. The town gets the project back, well, 50 years from 1996, so that would be 2046. The town will get this project back for $1. But in the meantime, Quorum Development is making a profit, not huge, but they're doing fine. They have an owner's rep that lives in Breckenridge, who's a close friend of mine, and this has been a fabulously successful project. Next slide. In 1997, the town of Breckenridge, the town of Blue River, Summit County government put together something called the Joint Upper Blue Master Plan. And that's where we looked at, basically the Upper Blue is from Dillon Reservoir to Hoosier Pass. And I don't know if you have anything that's similar here, but you guys have a valley with big mountains on the side, just like we do. The big mountains are all Forest Service, federal land, but some mining claims. The valley's a lot of private property. Our vision was to not allow the mountains to be built on. We didn't want view corridors compromised. We didn't want roads all over the place up in the backcountry. So we created this Joint Upper Blue Master Plan where we limited the size of dwellings up in the hills, and we tried to get the density to come down to the valley floor. Now, you may have a whole different way to look at it, but it was a way for us to get density out of the hills, bring it down to the valley floor. It was also a mechanism. We could buy a mining claim and end up with 2-3 units of density, and we could transfer that to the valley floor. A unit of density now costs about $50,000, so if a developer needs to buy some density to build something on the valley floor, he or she could buy density from a density bank that we created back in 1997. And now our backcountry is truly our backcountry. very few dwellings, small roads. Fire department's happy about that. They don't have to take their big machines up there to fight fires or anything because there isn't much to fight. That was a strategy that started this whole process. Then in 2000, the town of Breckenridge worked on an affordable housing strategy, and the key element is the fact that we decided that if you want to annex into the town of Breckenridge, and I don't know how that works here, you had to supply 80% of your units had to be affordable. And affordable could be 50% AMI to about 120% AMI. It could actually be 40% of AMI. And that was a demand that the town of Breckenridge made on developers that they wanted to annex into the town of Breckenridge for water, sewer, all sorts of stuff. It worked very well at first. Then there was some pushback from the developers, and you know, that's 20% market units, 80% affordable housing units, and the pushback came from, well, geez, we just can't quite make it. Well, we evolved into being a little more flexible as a town government, and the flexibility was in line with, okay, give us half of your units that are affordable but at a lower AMI, and we'll give you your development rights. So we worked with them, and we did that several times. The lowest we ever got was 50% affordable housing, 50% market rate, and the 50% affordable had to be at like, I think 60% AMI, something like that. So we got what we wanted, the developer got what they wanted as well. But it was a policy that our town council enacted in, I think it was 2000. Back up there we go. We also gave away water taps, which are very expensive in Breckenridge. I think they're $10,000 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath unit, something like that. We waived a lot of development fees, building inspection fees. We tried to subsidize, if you will, developers creating affordable units for us. And we allowed, like I said, we allowed greater density in certain parts of the valley floor by allowing developers to buy density. So if they had rights for 10 units of development, and to make it pencil they needed 12, they could go buy 2 more units of density at $50,000 a piece, or whatever the going rate was back in 2000. So it's a number of policies that the town council in 99, 2000 put together, and that laid on top of the Joint Upper Blue Master Plan as well. Next slide. This is an example of a private sector developer who took advantage of this 80-20 rule. This is a developer out of Boulder. I think they're called, well, it's David O'Neill's the developer. He's a terrific developer. He has a corporate name that I can't remember. But he bought a bunch of land, and you know how we have all those rock piles in Breckenridge? We bought a bunch of rock piles, paid $1 million for what just looked like horrible land, and he developed this beautiful neighborhood called the Wellington neighborhood on it. He bought into our 80-20 plan, and he built about 150 units starting in 2000, and this is a picture of, oh, these homes that are probably 10 years old now with nice trees, etc. There's a mixture of single-family homes, multi-family homes with duplexes. There is the ability to build garages if you choose or not. There's enough land on your lot to do that, but it's quite dense. The development, the model came from the Poplar development in Boulder, Colorado, which you can see, or you can see the Wellington neighborhood in Breckenridge. But this was a private developer who took advantage of the free water fees, the development fees, the building fees, etc. And he bought into the 80-20 thing, and we have this beautiful neighborhood that houses, well, it's got to house at least 400 or 500 people. And now he's doing a second phase called Lincoln Park right across the Blue River, right across French Creek from his first development, doing the same exact thing, the 80-20 thing, pencils for him. So it's worked out very well. We have a lot of that mining, refuse, Scrabble, etc. that looks very undevelopable. You guys have beautiful pastures, etc. And so you have land that probably may have higher values than what we have. But that's how we worked it on the gravel piles. Next slide. The other thing, then in 2002, just as I was leaving my first term as a town council person, we did something called the vision statement. Next slide. And this was something that, like somebody said, we're trying to maintain our community character. We're trying to maintain economic viability, sustainability. And I have a kind of an odd definition of community sustainability. It's a lot about the environment, but it's also about, can your children come back and live in your neighborhood or live in your community? If they can't, then that's a sustainable community. If they can't, you're too expensive. So we are trying to maintain a level of sustainability so the kids, my kids, other people's kids can come back to our community and live. And it's working in Breckenridge with these neighborhoods. Another thing was we want to take advantage, we want to do the right thing by the built environment. We aren't asking for LEEDs certification, but we're certainly asking for energy efficiency. We're asking for fire-resistant materials in case of wildfire, etc. So we're really putting our kind of thumb down on how this built environment is done. And that's in our code for all forms of building in the town of Breckenridge. Next slide. Oh, you're here. I didn't know you were here. You're my IT person. Then in 2006, the Summit County government put together a ballot initiative. Next slide. And so the county was starting to get on board 10 years ago, and they created this ballot initiative that raises about $800,000 a year for the town of Breckenridge, but it's a county-wide sales tax. It's about 1/8% of the sales tax. And I don't know what that would mean in Chaffee County, but in our community, that brings in several $1 million. And the town's share is $800,000 a year. So over the last 10 years, we've gleaned about $7 million to put into our affordable housing fund. And interestingly, in 2015, the community, the county voted on a new initiative that took a 10-year initiative and turned it into an initiative for perpetuity. So that $700,000 to $800,000 is going to come to Breckenridge every year. And the remainder will go to Bristol, Silverthorne, the Summit County government, et cetera, Dillon. And then just this last year, I'm not updated, on November 8th, contrary to the rest of the country, Summit County passed another initiative that brought in 5/8% sales tax for 10 years. And that's going to bring the town of Breckenridge another $2.2, $2.3 million a year for housing, workforce housing, senior housing, et cetera. So our community is fortunate in that we have people that are, willing to tax ourselves, tax our visitors. We do almost everything on a sales tax basis, and it is a way to, I think, and this is me being political, get your users to pay for what they're using. Your users are your tourists, by and large, and they're using your roads, they're using your water, they're using your sewer, and a sales tax, to me, directly targets your users. Certainly your residents are targeted as well, but in the scheme of things, a sales tax, at least in Summit County, has been very effective. So we have a community that is very much behind these sales tax initiatives. I don't know if people will become wallet weary or not, but we're very fortunate in Summit County and the town of Breckenridge that people are willing to prioritize housing. Next slide. This is a town of Breckenridge project. This is called Valley Brook, and this is a piece of property that the town owned, and we decided to, first we were looking at a public-private partnership, and it was 2008, 2009, wasn't going very well, the economy was in a state, and the town decided to just do the project itself. And it was a several $1 million project. It's 45 for-sale units, and it Worked out very well for the town. But at the time, we were starting to, we did a housing needs assessment like you guys have done with Melanie Rees out of Crested View. And at the time, we were doing a lot of for sale stuff. We did that rental stuff in '96, then we did Wellington neighborhood, was all for sale. This is for sale. And Melanie said, this is the vote. We need to do some rental. And we didn't get that, but we started doing it. For sale sold out just like that. This net 70 to 80% AMI. I think even some 60. And they're all townhome designs, up and down sort of things. Worked out very well. Next slide. But the town decided to go out and spend several $1 million to do that. This is an example of the private sector buildings. This is the Breckenridge ski area. They built 180 units of employee housing for their employees. They are slowly de-restricting it so that they don't use it in the rental market to make money off of it. They're using it for their employees, employees of the community. So there's room in our model for the private sector to build affordable housing. The Breckenridge ski area did a great job. They had a little, unfortunately, a black mold problem at first, because they were putting too many people in the units, and everybody was taking showers, and it really was a problem. I think it took probably 10 months to mitigate, but it works great now. Another kind of project we've entered into is what's called a LIHTC project, which stands for Low Income Housing Tax Credit. And this is a project called Pinewood 2. It's right next to Pinewood 1. It's another rental project because we saw the light and decided we'd rather do some rental stuff. LIHTC is a federally funded housing facilitator that oftentimes will put up about 1/3 to 1/2 of the money for a project. This was a $10 million project. It cost the town about $5.5 million out of our pocket. And it worked out very well, but they have very stringent requirements on what a LIHTC qualified renter looks like. And there's a lot of 40% AMI stuff in here. So it's the kind of thing that without those tax credits, it's really tough to make it pencil at 40% AMI. But it was a way to build 45 units. We just opened it this summer, filled up just like that. And the other thing we heard from Melanie Rees was we need to go a little smaller. 1-bedroom and studio apartments are really what you're missing in your inventory of housing. So we would do these things, and we listened to Melanie from our housing study, and it helped a lot because it's just rented just like that. We tried, next slide, we tried to do another LIHTC project called Denison Placer, which we're building right now, but it's a very competitive process. We did not get the money. We decided to go ahead and do it anyway. And you know, it's a balancing act. You're spending taxpayers' money, you want to do the right thing. Well, we had the money in the housing fund because of all these nice initiatives. We decided to gut up and spend the money and begin Denison Placer, but we didn't have the restrictions on the AMI requirements. So we have a much broader offering for our public with Denison Placer. We're building 63 units there, and those will be 4 rent units as well. I think that'll be done this spring. But it underscored, I think, and this is kind of an attaboy, it underscored my council's commitment to affordable housing, workforce housing, etc. We thought, well, we didn't get the money, we're going to have to dig deep and do it, and we did it. And so we're going to have lots more inventory on tap for people to come. Got this next slide. This is kind of what's working and what are the impacts of having all this wonderful housing and continuing to add to the inventory. You know, the land banking is where we got our start. We started buying property. I was talking to Jill earlier. The Forest Service has been a source for some of our land. We've done some trades where they wanted to get rid of pieces of property that are right in the middle of the town. We had property in the backcountry that we got through our land banking, our backcountry zoning process. We trade. So they would have a more contiguous parcel up in the hills. We did this crummy piece of property right down on Airport Road. So land banking has been very helpful. Working with the Forest Service has been helpful. The annexation policy has been very helpful. It's gotten us 250 units through David O'Neill in the Wellington neighborhood. Low-income housing tax credits worked once. That got us 45 units. And then the public-private partnerships has worked well with the Core Development Group. We hope to do that more in the future. The impacts, decreased commuting. We save, and I didn't believe it when I first heard it, we save 100,000 commuter miles a week by having our workforce housing in the town of Breckenridge. An additional thing to think about is that workforce adds millions of dollars to our economy because they live in the town, they're vested in the community, and they go to the same restaurants I go to, they go to Fatty's, just like any line. They hang out in town. They don't drive to Kremlin or Fair Play or whatever. We still have a lot of people that do that. Almost 50% of our workforce lives and works in Breckenridge, and it's a huge help to our year-round economy. It's not just the tourists, the residents really help the year-round economy. Employee recruitment and retention. I'm a dentist, I have 10 employees. It's not easy when I lose an employee. Well, where am I going to live? I just hired an associate dentist, had to find her housing in January, and it worked, but I was kind of on pins and needles because I needed some help. Talked about the local spending. Now I'm going to talk about families. The unintended but fun consequence of this kind of housing is you get people in places, all of a sudden there's a population boom in Breckenridge. We have so many children in Breckenridge because people are comfortable living in Breckenridge, they're having children, they're getting married, they're not living 5 people to an apartment like they did in the bad old days. So now we have a child care program that we have decided child care and housing go hand in hand. When you have a lot of children, a lot of people living on $15, $18 an hour, those kids have got to go somewhere. So we've created a child care program that mandates that our child care providers provide a living wage for their teachers. They have to start at 15 bucks an hour. We've paid off all their mortgages, and we have a child care assistance program. So if you are making $15 an hour, if you're making $15 an hour, you and your spouse, that's $30 an hour. You do the math, you're only supposed to spend 15% of your income on child care. 30% on housing, 15% on child care. 15% of $30 an hour total is $4.50. You can't buy child care for that anywhere. Child care has a cost, and we've mandated that our child care providers charge 100% of the cost of child care, and then we backfill what our burdened folks can't handle. And it's very controversial. We lost a ballot issue on it with our community. We tried to do it via property tax. We were voted down as my big defeat as mayor. But the town council said, I won't use the F word, but they just said, screw it, we're going to keep on funding this. We've got a lot of heat from people, but it's the only way people making 50% AMI, 40% AMI, 60% AMI can afford to put their children someplace near where they work. We have 4 terrific daycare providers. My wife was the president of the board of directors for one daycare provider in 1996, and they're still around and they're thriving. They don't have, one place had 90 W-2s in 1 year, and they only needed 12 teachers. That was huge turnover. Children don't like huge turnover. They don't learn when there's huge turnover. So when you do affordable housing, you got to think about the unintended consequences, which I think are great. You got to think about helping out with child care. Health care is a big part of this as well. So that was a big eye-opener for us back in 2004 or 5, but we got it up and decided that child care was part of this problem. Next slide. So I'm almost at the end. What's next? We already increased the impact fee. That passed very handily on November 8th. trying to involve employers. We have a lot of big employers in the community, and I'm going to throw our school district under the bus. You can hear me out. They don't get it that they're big employers. They don't participate, they have land, and I have chastised them every chance I get. They got to throw some land under it. We'll build the housing. You got to have housing for your staff. You got to have housing for your teachers. They do nothing. And, oh yeah, that's a great idea, John. They just passed a $74 million bond for, I guess, what do you think? Hardware? Stick to the knitting. Okay. Yeah, they're sticking to buildings, leaky roofs, stuff like that, but they didn't put any money in for housing. And I think that's wrong. The Scary built 180 units. Beaver Run Resort, which is a huge hotel, built about 50 units years ago. I think if you're a big employer, you ought to be involved in this conversation. And so the school district knows how I feel. They wanted me to do a radio ad pushing for this $74 million bond. I said, no, you don't have housing in here, I'm not going to do it. So I'm kind of at odds with our school district. Have I done that? Okay. Okay. That's employer involvement, and I think it's great. Preservation of units and buy down, it's really hard to do. We've got, back in 2008, 2009, when the economy was in terrible shape, there were lots of condos for sale for $180, $210. We bought like 6 of them, fixed them up, and then we resold them at about $150, $160. So yeah, we added 6 units to our inventory, but now in the same places are going for 400, 380, stuff like that. We just don't put our money there. But it's a way to do things. Monitoring, administering these deed restrictions is very difficult. It's time consuming. One of the things in 2006, we created this Summit County Combined Housing Authority. That was their job, is to follow these deed restrictions. And it's tough. People are trying to game the system all the time. We had a Princeton professor buy an affordable housing unit, said he was going to live in Breckenridge. He short-term rented it and threw him out because he bought a restricted unit. You're not supposed to do that. So you got to keep an eye on these folks. Challenges, retired employees. If you live in Breckenridge if you work in Breckenridge for 7 years, you've worked 30 hours a week, you can stay in your deed restricted place. Anything less than that, you need to find housing if you're choosing to retire in Breckenridge. We're not building, at least in Breckenridge, we're not building these units to house our seniors. It sounds a little cold, but we really have huge workforce needs, and I'm a senior citizen by many years, and I'm okay with it. Most of our seniors come in, they have a business, they do well, and then they retire, they already have a house. I'm not sure we need to provide housing on the ground for our senior citizens. That's what we talked about. What else is there? Town of Breckenridge is going to go through some redevelopment. There are going to be pressures to make the town taller, more dense. Our building code doesn't allow taller. We could be more dense though. And so we might see some affordable housing projects come out of that. Limited resources, you know, I made it sound like we have just tons of money. Well, if you add it all up, yeah, we have maybe $3 or $4 million a year. These projects cost $10 to $20 million, so we just can't probably build our way out of this. But we're giving it a good shot. The NIMBYism, I talked to Jill about it a little bit. NIMBYism, you need to, I think, we have disregarded. NIMBY means not in my backyard. And I'm sure there's a lot of it in Chaffee County, a ton of it in Summit County. You know, I'm not going to let those people live near me. My property values will go down. None of that's true. None of that has happened. Everywhere there's one of these neighborhoods, people want to be in those neighborhoods. People that have money and wealth want to be in these neighborhoods. So I would discount NIMBYism as much as you can. And competing priorities, yeah, the town of Breckenridge has a lot of priorities. We just nixed a $50 million water treatment plan, which I think we should have, but how do you spend $50 million on a water treatment plan? You've got $50 million for the housing needs. You can't do it all. So town councils have to make priorities. And the last thing is market pressure. You guys are getting it, certainly in Salida. I don't know about Muni, but you got tons of people like me from Denver lining up your houses sight unseen, and that lowers your amount of housing stock that you can rent or people can buy, etc. So there are very significant market pressures. I think that's all I have. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll take any questions if you have any.
Let's just take 2 questions, and then we're going to have a 5-minute break.
So we have read literature about recommending housing problems here. But one of the things that we see when we deal with the affordable housing vacation rentals is that Breckenridge has 40% vacation rentals in town. I'm wondering if you touch on that, if it's true, and how that affects the quality of life. And the others, you touched on the deed restricted a little bit, but without the deed restrictions, then you have to qualify those people. Otherwise, people just come and buy those up and then go through the roof.
Yeah, I'll answer that one first and the other one second. The deed restrictions, I didn't really get into specifics because all the projects have different deed restrictions. Most of them are similar, and so the basic part of it is you can only see your property appreciate 3% per year. You can only put so many capital improvements on your property, and the reason is that accelerates the creep problem. The creep problem is you buy something for $220, you put a $30,000 garage on it, $10,000 hot tub in the back over a period of years, you finish your basement. Now the place from a cost per square foot is worth just $400,000 just for that. Well, all of a sudden that $220,000 place is worth way too much. You never get your money back because you only get a 3% appreciation. So then you're angry. So we have some caps on capital improvements, unless you want to lose money. And people can do that, but they got to know that. So that's one of them. Then there are work requirements, and deed restricted to units. You have to work 30 or 32 hours a week. I can't remember the other ones, but those are some of the specifics. Back to the VRBO question. Yeah, we have a lot of VRBOs. That's one thing my wife is trying to do with her program, and she'll correct me if I make a mistake. You got a VRBO, you're renting it all the time, you're making a ton of money, but you're kind of tired of the wear and tear on your unit. Carrie's program is, look, we'll manage it for you. We won't charge you to manage it, correct? And you know you're going to get X number of dollars a month, $2,000 a month, $2,500 a month. So she's trying to turn the tables on landlords who are struggling with the upkeep, etc. They will do everything for you, and you reap an income, a revenue stream that you can count. So that's one way that we're dealing with VRBOs. The other is CAST, Colorado Association of Ski Towns, and our town manager, Tim Gagan, created a program and a legal kind of protocol to scrape VRBO sites to get our due for lodging taxes. And the lodging tax in Breckenridge is like 3%, and we think lodgers use our streets, they use our parking places, they use our toilets, etc. They should pay something. So a lot of the VRBOs were not complying, so people were coming into town using the services, leaving town and using the services, so it was affecting us in a negative way. Now we're seeing lots more revenue come in with VRBOs. But even deeper into your question, VRBOs are tough on the community. We lived in a neighborhood before we downsized where across the street was a wedding house. They have 7 bedrooms, 22 people sitting there, 15 cars out front. Sometimes they park in our driveway, and it affects the neighborhood. So we have fairly stringent rules and regulations to not allow VRBOs to affect the neighborhood. But it's not easy. And all the enforcement comes from either our town of Breckenridge or the Summit County Combined Housing Authority. Does that help? Some of those questions.
Final question. Please feel free. You can always arm wrestle with John after our session during lunch.
question?
Are you saying that like the deed restrictions, all these AMIs that you're checking, you have a housing authority that is actually monitoring that?
Yep. Okay. Yep. Yeah, and it's countywide, and so they have a big job. So they do a great job. Thanks, anybody.
Thank you, John. Okay, let's take a 5-minute break, stretch your legs, get some coffee, and listen to the teacher when he calls you back.